Good morning, people. This is Saturday morning, and this is Christian and my computer and Fusion 360, like I've done a couple of videos now. So I'm playing around with this shape here. I'm going to talk about how I designed it, and this is a holder for what do you call it, pipette bottles for pigments for Jesmonite, because they come in really large bottles, which are really hard to get the correct amount of pigment into the Jesmonite, which is a casting material. So I needed a small holder like this. So I have some design intents. I have an outer limit of a box and an oversize of a bottles. That's basically it. And I wanted like 7 bottles. That's a good way. And I needed some way to get a grip of the box. So I did this little indent here. So I'm going to have a look at this because I see a lot of people get stuck in their design intent. They start designing without... You need some basic parameters. Are you limited in size in somehow and stuff like that, so you don't get too far into the design before you get into trouble. So this is going to be quite basic for you who want to see my stupid advanced workflows. We can skip this one or just tag along and comment on how I do things wrong. So let's have a look at this. We're going to do new design. I will not save it, but you should always start by saving. Let's call it holder. So we start the component as always, and we're going to start with a sketch. We can start it from the top. We're going to start with a rectangle, because one of the things I knew, an oversize that I'm limited to due to my 3D printer and some other space, so it needs to be 155 times 80. These I can't change that much because there are limitations in the physical world, so this is what I need. The limitation I have, of course, is the bottle. And the holes need to be 32.5, that's for the bottle, and enough space for get the bottle in and out. And we're going to do 2 rows, so I'm going to do 2 circles. I'm going to tell Fusion that these circles want to be equal. So now I have my circles. I'm going to of course use rectangular patterns to spread this out later, but how do I want to place this? So I know, let's have a look at the picture again. If we're going to put bottles like one even number and an odd number, we're going to make a triangle shape or equilateral triangle shape in bottle. So let's do that. Do line and construction lines from here to here and up to our imaginary bottle, which is not there, and back to here. And of course we tell Fusion that all these 3 lines should be equal. Now we get to somewhere. Oops, sorry, shouldn't move it like that. The thing I want to do now, we can pull it out like that. Yes, we can move it like that. I want to now start constraining these bottles inside this box here. So top and down, I want the middle. This line here, even if it is slightly tilted, is a representation of a center between this. So let's do another line. You can of course just straightly do horizontal constraints, but sometimes I like to add lines so I know what I'm doing. Construction line from midpoint this line to midpoint here. Till Fusion, I want these to be horizontal vertical. Like that. So now we've done it in one direction. We can still move it up and down, but now we need to lock them in this direction so you get symmetric. And if you watch, let's look at my design intent. 4 bottles. If I have 4 bottles, I have 3 spaces between 1, 2, 3. So let's do that. Line. I'm going to do 1 line. I'm going to do 1 more. So this point out here is where the last bottle in this row should be. And of course, these 3 lines here, marking up like this, should be equal. And they are an odd number of lines. That means that the center of this line should be centered to the top of the rectangle here. So let's do that. There are other ways to do this. It's just giving me some options. So do like that. So by doing this now, I have basically locked everything down except where I want the bottle. Of course, they cannot overlap. So the thing that's of course in my design intent is that I want some spacing in between here, so let's add that. You hit D for dimension, right click and select Pixarc circle arc tangent and select these 2. And I want the spacing between the bottles to be 5 millimeters. And by doing that, open up the sketches. We now have a fully defined sketch. I have not defined the dimension to the side anywhere because they are with these 2 constrained lines, they are locked into the middle rectangle. It's not the same distance everywhere, but I really don't care about that. So this gives me a very nicely locked down sketch. I should say that this This is parametric workflow, but you can go back and change parameters, but I will now use some measure, which means you have to redo the measure if you change dimensions. But as I said, my intention was these two dimensions are locked when the size of bottles are locked, and I also basically locked down this. So now I have something to start doing my 3D body. E for extrude. I'm going to extrude everything minus 5mm, a quite thick bottom. And I'm going to extrude this upwards 23mm, like that. And I now have like the basic shape I want. Now I need to spread out these. S on the keyboard, rectangular pattern. We're going to use faces. This face. Now, of course, in direction, I can select any one of these short lines here. Why I do that? Of course, I can select the edge out here, but I can select this line here. I'll explain shortly why. Check that the distance type is spacing. Quantity, we can change for later. But the distance, I can do the math onto distance here, but I have a line mark. So just hit the 3 dots and do a measure. Hit 3, we wanted 4, like that. We do a second rectangular pattern of this face. Once again, select one of these lines, do a measure, and in this case we wanted 3, so that's correct, and hit OK. By doing that, we have very rapidly designed the basic shape we wanted. And the last thing I want to do here, I want to make this grip. I will not do the text, that's basically just a small extrude. But I want to make a small grip, and the problem is that my origin point is at the corner down here, and I want the front here to be centered, the flat part here to be on the center. I'm going to create a mid plane to work on between this face and that face. Okay, create a sketch on a newly created plane, if we can pick it, like that. We do projection of the edge here, so we have something to sketch with. We're going to turn off our first sketch. S, we're going to do an arc. S for search, if I type arc, we do a 3-point. That's the easiest one here. 1, 2, and there. Where did we go? We had to hide the body, yeah, like that. Sometimes the colors get a bit bad. Of course, I want to dimension this. D for dimension. Once again, right click, select circle arc tangent, because I want to dimension the depth this cuts in. And I want that to be 4mm, like that. Finish sketch. Turn on our body so we can see things. So now I want to cut this around, so the best tool for that is a sweep. I'm going to do a sweep. I'm going to select our profile. So of course now it's going to pick up the face. We hold down the mouse button until we can select profile. The path is going to be up here all the way around. But of course it cuts too much now, and both distances here are set to 1. So what we can do, we can start by changing this to 0.5, 0.5. You can see the cut is now here in the middle. We want them slightly more apart, so let's do the distance 0.4, 0.4. As long as I put the same numbers in, you can use a parameter. I get the sweep to stop where I want to, like so, something like that should be nice. I can put some text here. Okay. The last thing I do is want to draft these little edges here slightly outwards. We're going to do a draft. We're going to select pull direction is the flat face, and the faces you want to move is this one. And hold down to control to select. If you can't select the face, just hold down control and find the face. Angle 45 degrees. Yes, that's good. And by doing that, I'm going to turn off that sketch. We have created this basic shape. Very simple. Of course, now you can add some fillers to avoid these sharp edges when printing, or chamfers. If you do a very small filler, small chamfer, you get the same result in the real world with 3D printing. And yeah, I think I add a small chamfer bottom, but in the bottom, and the text, of course. But I will leave that to you. That is a more simple thing. So this is how I use a design intent and get a product out that looks like this after 3D printing to put the buttons in. I hope this is useful for some of you, and with that, take care, see you around, and goodbye.